everybody, and thank you for joining us on this 7-day Alaska cruise where we depart out of Seattle, making our way up through Ketchikan on our way to Juneau, and then heading up into Skagway before we head back to Victoria, British Columbia for our mandatory out-of-the-country stop before heading back into Seattle. Now, this cruise was done in May, so this was a little bit of a chillier time for us in Alaska, but it was still doable. So here on our first day out of Seattle, we ended up going out of Pier 91, which is a kind of a little ways north of where you'll fly into in Seattle. There are shuttle buses and ways to get up here. We had ended up coming in a few days early and spent some time in Seattle. So for us, it wasn't too bad for us to just grab a taxi from our hotel that was over by the Space Needle and then come on over and have them drop us off over here at the cruise pier. So not really too much of a problem. Nice big cruise pier, and it is an absolutely beautiful sail out of here. So my recommendation is if you have the opportunity to come in a little early and spend some time in Seattle, by all means do it. It's a really great way to kind of spend a few extra days if you've got them for your vacation. So it's a little bit different than a Caribbean cruise. Those decks are going to be a little emptier by the pool than they normally would be on a sail away like this, but hey, we get a pretty empty deck for us to come out and see some sail away here right out of Puget Sound as we head out into the Pacific Ocean. So this cruise was actually a really fun one for us. We have been to Alaska before, and we really wanted to kind of do a comparison between this and Norway. So directly following this cruise, there's going to be a cruise tour of our Norway cruise as well, which we did shortly thereafter in the latter part of June. They were about a month apart. And with that, here we go with our first night's embarkation entertainment and Alexa Jane. Our next day was a day at sea, which meant there was really nobody out on deck because it was pretty cold out here at this point. So everybody was huddled in the buffet, just like we were trying to get some food. And it was Greek night, and we ended up kind of eating in the buffet, but asking them why they didn't have any baklava at the dessert station. And lo and behold, this gentleman showed up about 10 minutes later with a plate load of baklava for me that was freshly made special. One of the reasons we do tend to cruise on Celebrity is their level of service, and another is the entertainment that you tend to get coming up now.
I hear the ticking of the clock. I'm standing here, the world's pitch dark. Ready for a sensation, a new sensation right now. Gonna take you over. Hey, with pain, you remember how sweet it used to be. I only wanna see you laughing in the purple rain, purple rain, purple rain. I set fire to the rain, watch it pour as I touch your face. Well, I felt something right 'cause I knew that that was the last night, the last night.
Our very first stop of this cruise was in Ketchikan, which unfortunately was a little bit of a chilly and rainy day when we got there. It was probably about 45 degrees and ended up drizzling on us a little bit later that day. We took a tour that was through the cruise line, but it was one of the least expensive ones we could actually find and actually really wanted to go do, because we were in Ketchikan for quite a while, so we ended up just doing a quick little tour on this trolley that kind of took us around to some of the surrounding areas in Ketchikan. It was really only like 33 bucks a person, took us out to a little totem pole park where we got a little bit of a tour around out here to see some of the different areas. It was just a nice little totem pole park that they had. They have some beautiful views coming up here in a little bit. There's a gift shop. They gave us some nice free hot chocolate because it was pretty cold out there, but it kind of made for just a nice little relaxing visit before it started drizzling on us later. And we were really lucky because of how long we were there and how short this tour was. We were going to get to do this and still go back and spend time in the downtown part of Ketchikan. But it was a nice, inexpensive tour, something we've tried to start doing at this point because it just starts to get really expensive when the tours are $150, $200 a pop and you're taking many cruises a year. So whenever we can find stuff that's less expensive through the cruise line, we will go ahead and do it, but unfortunately that isn't always the case. We end up sometimes having to try and figure a bunch of stuff out on our own, or every once in a while just kind of biting the bullet and taking a little more expensive tour. But this one wasn't bad. The trolley was a little bit uncomfortable. It was wooden seats and just a quick little drive out to these parts, but then we ended up coming down here to Creek Street, one of the little touristy shopping areas that you can go to in Ketchikan. It's an absolutely beautiful little area. The weather at this point did start to become a little bit uncooperative, and we started kind of making our way back as it started to drizzle on us. We didn't want to be out here with too much rain and too much cold before the rest of our cruise, so at this point we decided to end our sightseeing tour of the salmon capital of Alaska and make our way back into the port area so that we could make our way back onto the ship and off for that night's entertainment, where our entertainment was partially the sail out of Ketchikan and then the entertainment that was back in Eden, where they had some really good live acoustic music. On our next day, we ended up making our way up to Juneau, but on the way up to Juneau, they did a morning stop at the Dawes Glacier. So this is kind of you get two little stopover areas in one day. It caused us to show up into Juneau a little bit later, but it wasn't too bad. We still got a nice full day in Juneau. This was kind of a nice little just side trip that the ship does as part of its cruise through Alaska here. The Dawes Glacier is a little bit of a difficult one to get to unless you have a much smaller boat, like the one that's in the video here down at the bottom. I had to zoom way in to get this thing in the video, but that gives you an idea of just how big that glacier is coming out into the bay here, because that is a very small boat and a whole lot of ice coming down that mountain. But there's a beautiful sail going in and out of this pass that runs up to the Dawes Glacier, after which we ended up making our way up to the pier in Juneau. Now, Juneau can be very, very busy. It is the busiest cruise port in Alaska, I would imagine, short of Anchorage maybe, but it's probably the busiest one. And they've already started talking about limiting the number of ships that go in there. If you don't want to get a ship tour, you can walk off the boat, and there are a ton of little tour stands there that you can go do. You can do the Gold Belt Tram when it's operating.
Here's
broken tram. There's the ride right there. So unfortunately, the tour that we had booked through the cruise line for the Gold Belt tram did get canceled because they had some sort of a problem with the tram itself, and they were verifying that it was still safe to use, and it took a lot longer for them to do that. So we ended up pivoting a little bit and just doing a walking tour here through Juneau, and ended up going up to a place called Hangar Bar, which is actually a really cool little restaurant right at the end of where the ships come in. And it's also a place where you can watch all of the seaplanes land at the seaplane pier that's right there by the restaurant. So it ends up being a nice little place to come sit and grab some really good seafood. I'm not going to tell you that it's cheap seafood, but it is really good seafood. The chowder and the tacos that are here are absolutely delicious. The price of king crab at $100 a pound was a little more than I was really willing to spend, but what we got here was absolutely delicious. Can't really complain about the little stop we made there. And then we ended up finishing our sightseeing and heading back for that night's entertainment on the ship.
Ready?
They don't want it. They don't want the smoke.
Now, our last stop that's in Alaska is up in Skagway. We still got one more stop on the way back, but here in Skagway, it was, again, really cold and windy. So Juneau was our best day. It was actually pretty decent in Juneau, but it just kind of kept on and off getting cold and windy no matter where we went here in Alaska. But at least they had a nice little covered walkway here, and there was a train that would take you back and forth down the pier if you needed to. It's one of those places where a lot of people come here and they will take the White Pass Railway that goes up through the mountains, and it's this really cool train ride that you can go do. We have done it before and didn't want to pay the $200 and some odd a person to do it again. And since we had never really spent a lot of time going through downtown Skagway on our own, we decided we'd go ahead and do it this time and get a little bit of a sightseeing tour in. There's a nice little town that you can go grab something to eat in. There's a river that runs down through here. If you come through here later in the summertime, back in August or something like that, you'll end up seeing salmon running through this river. They do have kind of their little tutorial here of all the different kinds of salmon that run through here. And then I am not really sure what is truly going on with this bridge over here, but I decided I didn't want to chance it with any photographs from the bridge. So figured I'd give you a look at what the White Pass Railway looks like here as it zips through town. It's a pretty long journey. You can buy the tickets in town if you wish, or you can get it through the cruise line. I will link our video that we did a few years ago where we went to Alaska with some family of mine up here in the upper right. So if you want to see that, you can. And after that, it was time to head back to the ship for that evening's entertainment.
Until you sleep your heart and you have lost, you don't know.
Our next day was a nice little relaxing day at sea where we just kind of spent some time hanging around before going off to the main dining that night to get surf and turf because it was lobster night, and we decided we'd take advantage of that while we could before heading off to that night's entertainment back in Eden for some acoustic music.
And I wonder if I ever cross your line to be hands all the time. Oh, Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my name.
So our final stop was in Victoria in British Columbia, which they have to stop outside of the country for legal reasons on these cruises to Alaska. And it's weird because you end up getting there at like 5 or 6 o'clock at night. So they do this really cool gala lunch buffet, followed by some afternoon entertainment that they do. So it's the main show that they do would normally do at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. They'll do it like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then you'll go grab something to eat a lot of times before you're heading out to port.
You belong to me. How my poor heart
So after the show, we ended up going up on deck to get ourselves a nice little view going into Victoria here, and the weather was a lot nicer than it was in the rest of Alaska. It was a much warmer day, a much more pleasant day to go spend here in Victoria. But we ended up grabbing dinner at the buffet here, and I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of peruse through the buffet here, since I haven't really given you too much of a show of what the kind of offerings they do have here on the edge are in the buffet. I'll let you run through this and get a good look at this before we end up heading out onto the pier and into the town, where we did a tour to the Butchart Gardens in Victoria, and I'll explain a little bit more about that here in just a second. But in the meantime, if you've made it this far, please don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe, because hopefully some of this video has been helpful or entertaining in some way for you. And if you did, it would really help out the channel quite a bit. So now, like I said, when you get into Victoria, it's an evening stop. You're usually here at 5 or 6 in the afternoon. A lot of times the ship will stick around until 10, 11, midnight, something like that, as they're going to be just a quick little sail back over to Seattle. So when we saw that Butchart Gardens was available through the ship, we ended up getting it on sale for a pretty good rate. Normally, Butchart Gardens is about $40 or $45 a person Canadian to get into, and it's a good 15 miles and 30 to 40 minutes to get up there from the cruise port. So the $92 a person that we ended up paying for this through the cruise line was actually a pretty good deal, because it would have worked out to a very similar amount, and we didn't have to go through any of the planning and all that other stuff on our own, and we were guaranteed to get back since it was such a short stay. And for an almost no price difference, it was totally worth it for us. We did get it ahead of time on sale. It's normally probably a little bit more than that, but we were lucky and went ahead and went that route. But that being said, if you ever get a chance to go to Butchart Gardens, it is absolutely beautiful. It is probably one of the most beautiful places I've been to in my life. And what you're seeing here is the very beginning of their season. It is not in full bloom at this point. There's so much more that they will have going on, and it will be so much more lush and green the later on in the season that it gets here. So I'm just giving you kind of a heads up of what you're looking at here. This is late May. This was the very, I think, first week that they were open late. Most of the time, Butchart Gardens will close around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But in the summertime, on certain days of the week, they stay open later for the fact that they can have the sun up, and they will have a lot more people coming in for summer travel, and it affords them on a lot of the days to stay open late. So if you're doing this on your own and you're just kind of showing up here, not on a cruise, just check their hours ahead of time if you're going to do it on your own. If you're doing it through the cruise line and they don't offer it, just check and make sure before you're going to go do this on your own that they are going to be open at those times. So just your heads up and warning there. Now, we really wanted to do this because a long time ago, I had come visiting my mom in Washington, and we ended up going up to Butchart Gardens, and she had since passed away. So when this came up, it was a really sentimental treat for me to get to go and revisit a place that we had spent with my mom and my stepdad. And it was kind of a really neat adventure that we did with them 20 plus years ago when we did it. So anyway, I'm going to let you kind of peruse through the gardens here. It is an absolute beautiful masterpiece of colorful landscaping. So by all means, go ahead and enjoy, and I'll pick back up a little bit later on. So now the Butchart Gardens are made up of various different areas that you can go visit. There's the one that we just went through with all the beautiful flowers and trees and water. And then they have this just massive rose garden with all these various different kinds of roses that you can go through and take a look at. And then as we get going later on and you get past the rose garden, there is a Japanese styled Zen garden. And then there's even another area that's a little bit of a water garden area, water fountain area that's just absolute little beautiful area. And there's going to be a couple little extra videos, a little bit of extra photos that I found from when we did visit here a long time ago with my mom and stepdad. So they're going to kind of pop in a little bit here and there. So just don't be surprised at what those are. The last one that I do put in here with them kind of shows the difference between how the garden looks now in the end of May and what it looked like when we visited them in the middle of summer. I believe it was late July that we came up and visited them. So just so you get an idea. Now we did end up sticking around late enough here to where the sun started to set and you could actually get to see some of the lights coming on in the garden so that you would get an idea of not only just what they've done with the landscaping and the plants, but all the different lighting that they've done. And from what I understand, if you come up here at Christmas time, there is a Christmas lights display that is just absolutely amazing. So just to give you another option if you're ever in the area and you want to come up and see something really cool in the wintertime here in Victoria. And here we are going through the very last section here in the gardens. And this is also where there's going to be an appearance from some people in the past and a little picture of kind of what it looks like in full bloom in the summer there in those planter areas, just so you get an idea. And now as we kind of end up coming to the end of the tour here, I'm going to take you through the little bit dimmer lit areas and darker areas of Butchart Gardens and bring us back to say goodbye to the gardens and to the bear statues that we ran into earlier. So the bus ride back was really cool because we ended up getting to go back through Victoria at night. This was I think it was almost 10 o'clock at night by the time we ended up getting back through the area here in Victoria. It's absolutely beautiful in this town at night. It would be a worthwhile tour to just simply either get on the shuttle bus from the cruise port and come on up here into Victoria and do some sightseeing. You can even walk here from the cruise port if you want. A little bit of a journey, but you can do it. Probably about a 40-minute walk if you want to go that route. And now as we come to the end of our tour, thank you so much for watching this video, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.